I am here and we are live. If you can hear me, as I always say, I don't wait for the audience to build. Just send me a comment saying you can hear me and see me clearly, and I'll get started. Good night to you. Good night to all of you. Thank you for coming. Thank you for joining the live. We have some very important matters to discuss here tonight. Drop me a comment. Yeah, Kwame, drop me a comment. Let me see. Drop me a comment so that you can hear me and see me clearly, and I'll get into it. Straight into it. No time to waste. No time to waste. I see you, Trini. I see you, Rayvon. Drop me a comment saying that you can hear me and see me clearly, and I'll get straight into it. We're here. Look at the topic. Please check the topic. Share the live. Please share this live. It's very important. I have a very important list of items there in the topic. Please share the live. Share the live, please, people. If you just joined, you haven't seen me in a while. I know. I apologize. I always do my lives random. I give you no notification when I'm going to do a live. I just appear. And I must thank you for taking time out to join the live, even though you did not get a initial notification or prior notification of the live. But you guys know, when I come live and I do my presentations, you are satisfied. I give you facts that no one else are giving you. I give you in-depth explanation of legal terminologies. I give you history, the full history of whatever topic I'm discussing. And like I said, I always try to stick to the facts. I stay away from opinions. I stay away from presumptions and assumptions. So you know that when you come here, you join my live and I present information to you, you know you're getting facts. You can directly speak after me and quote directly after me, because what I present to you is directly within a legal framework, or it comes from a direct factual source related to the topic matter. And tonight, if you look in the topic matter there, you'll see I said that Tiger has spoken. Tiger has spoken. So in the topic there, it clearly said that Tiger has spoken. I haven't seen anyone say if they can hear me and see me clearly. Just drop a comment. Drop a comment there saying that you can hear me and see me clearly. Just drop a comment so I'll know if you can hear me and see me clearly. So I'll continue. When I get that notification from one of you guys, I will get straight into it right away. Anyhow, I got enough people. Anyhow, I know you hearing me and seeing me clearly, so I will just go straight into it. We're doing an exclusive analysis, the facts behind the Mohamed extradition and the GRA case. And this will be, of course, a two-part. When I do videos, like when I do live like this, I always do a separate video addressing more in-depth the pertinent issues on the topic. So I will be doing a video on my media page, the Harpy. If you have not followed or liked the Harpy page, please go to the Harpy. Look in my profile, you'll see the Harpy. Click on the Harpy and follow that page, because I do post more details on the topic on that site too. So basically, I am here today to warn you about misinformation and missing information concerning the Mohamed's case. Let me say that again. I am here to warn you about misinformation and missing information concerning the Mohamed's case, the GRA, and the legal processes of the extradition, because a lot of people are acting as though they are competent on the topic of the extradition and the extradition process or processes, what they can be charged for, what they cannot be charged for, and stuff like that. Thank you very much, Marcia Archer. Thank you very much. Thank you. See me clearly, hear me clearly. Yes. So what I must say first, what I must say first to you is that right now, Guyana stands at a crossroads between transparency and what we call tabloidism. Right? The public deserve the facts, and I'm here to give you the facts. The public deserve the facts because they do not want any political theater. What you've been receiving in Guyana is what we refer to as political theater. The journalists in Guyana are not practicing responsible journalism. I am not a internationally certified or trained journalist, but I have been engaged in journalism classes online. So I'm trying to up my game, right? I have been engaging in some journalism classes online. So whether or not it's behind the camera or on paper, right? Journalists in general must always separate the accusations from the verifications. And I find a lot of the information you're receiving from many social media characters and media by itself, our media articles, they're not separating accusations from verification. They're just bundling it all up into one, and that is what you call tabloidism. You're getting tabloidism. You're not getting proper, I should say, concise and investigative journalism. So before I get deep into this presentation, I need to explain to you the most important thing in this entire case is the language. In all legal situations or anything surrounding what you call law, you must understand the language. And I want to get this over to you quickly as I can. All right? You need to learn and understand that the difference between law, that legal and legislation, there's a difference between these three things. The first thing you have to understand, the average man, what the average man thinks and believes and conceive as this law that everybody breaking, the law that the Mohammeds are being charged that they broke, the law that you broke when you play loud music, the law that you broke when someone commit a crime. The first thing you have to learn and understand is this: no lawyer is going to come here and tell you what I'm about to tell you. Law, the law of itself does not exist. Let me say that again. Law, this, look me quote and unquote, law by itself does not exist. It's non-existent. What does exist is what's legal, look, quote unquote, what's legal, and what is legislation. Legislation is presented to you by a legislator, and it has to be assented and proclaimed into law. And for it to be law, it must be legal, meaning it has to be a contract. I'll explain more on that to you in another video, but keep that in mind. As I go through this, you understand what I'm getting at, right? So keep that in mind. So here's the thing. As I just said, there's no law. The law actually does not exist, right? There is only what you call legislation, right? Legal simply means contract. So let me give you an example. Let me give you an example of that. So we had COVID, and they say that they passed a law whereby you have to get a COVID vaccine. You have to get a stick. You can't use certain terms. You have to get a stick. So to enter into the workplace or to enter into certain public buildings. Now that is legal. That is a contract. Now, nowhere at any time did any one of you or me signed and agreed to a contract with anyone that we have to get a stick to enter into a building. Therefore, that was basically illegal because there was no contract between you and me. So that is one of the things that when I had my case in court and I presented that to the court, in my affidavit, I presented that to the court that I have no contract. I have no contract with the state or the court, so I can't get no vaccine. So that's another thing. So what is legislation? I want you guys to bear with me. You're going to get the gist of it just now. So what is it all ties into the Mohamed's case and everybody else's case. If you have a quick case in court, please bear with me and learn what I'm teaching you. If you have a case in court. So what's legislation, right? Legislation is basically corporate policy. That's all it is. Legislation is corporate policy. And where does legislation come from? As I said just now, legislation comes from a legislator. So a legislator is basically a person who is offering you law within a contract. So you have the ability to agree to the contract or disagree to the contract. Very smart people who are watching me right here, right now, already understand what I'm trying to tell you, right? You should already understand what I'm teaching you about this law that they want to charge you for. Law that they want to charge you for. So let me say that again. Legislation is basically corporate policy. And legislation comes from a legislator. The legislator is the person who offers you the law in the form of a contract. So you have a right to agree to contract or not to contract. Right? So I will say this. A lot of people are going to come here and question if I'm a lawyer. They're going to question what legal background I have, and a whole lot of stuff people are going to come and ask, right? I always say to you, whatever I tell you here, I present to you as a fact. Do yourself a favor. Go do your research and then come back to me. Now let me get a bit deep into that. Now, the legislation of each particular country, the legislation of Guyana, of each particular country, may be different because each country is a corporation. Each country is a corporation operating within a corporate jurisdiction. Legislation for each particular country will be different because each country is a corporation operating within a particular jurisdiction. And that jurisdiction is not the land. Listen again, the jurisdiction is not the land. So, with these corporations, I want you to think about this. What I'm trying to tell you. And this message, this whole video, I want you guys to tag Mohamed. If you're a guy, if you're friends with Odessa Primus, tag Odessa. The lawyers that represents Mr. Mohamed, what's his name? Jardu or Jardu. I got a friend there. I got a friend from Long there. Duarte Hesborga. Duarte. If you guys tag Duarte, I want the people who are around the Mohammeds to come to this video and understand what I am basically about to say, and they'll see that there are other parameters surrounding the legal parameters surrounding the entire case that would nullify. Listen to this. That can nullify this entire thing if they approach it in the right manner. So, with these corporations, many of these corporations, they have these legislation, and the legislation is supposed to be signed off and accepted by a member of parliament, which is supposed to then announce it as a proclamation into existence as a law. So, therefore, I want you to think now, therefore, an extradition order is basically a corporate contract between two corporations who share the same similar terms of corporate policy. Let me say that again. An extradition is basically a corporate contract between two corporations who share the same similar terms of corporate policy. So if these two corporations, which is the Cooperative Republic of Guyana and the United States of America, these two corporations, they're not countries, they're corporations. And they have corporate policies. The corporate policies are called legislations. And they must share, these two corporations must share the same corporate policies. The terms of corporate policies must coincide one way or the other in order for them to be an extradition. There cannot be any extradition if the corporate policies within the terms of the contracts between the two corporations, the two so-called countries which are they are corporations. If it doesn't exist, there can be no extradition. I wish that a lawyer, a learned, certified lawyer, can come and make a video like this and explain to you what I just explained to you. I really hope so. So, with that said, now, allow me now to present to you information that no one else has. I want to touch on this, and I said Tiger has spoken. Here's a fact. Here's what Tiger has said. And I'm smiling a lot on this because it's very, very important. Now, Tiger has said to me a very important point to note. According to Tiger, these are not my words, so nobody will come and sue me. Nobody inside be slanderous or whatever you want, libel or whatever. According to Tiger, which is the former accountant, former administrator, and former Hawala man of the Mohammeds. According to Tiger, just a few years ago, prior to 2017, which is the actual period under investigation, the GRA actually had an office. They actually had an office set up inside the Mohammed's building. I want to share this live. Before I talk this, listen, y'all share this live. Y'all share this live before I give y'all this information. This is deep. I'm going to expose. I'm here now. I'm going to expose the GRA and show you incompetence, show you lies, incompetence, and political targeting directly from the GRA, according to Tiger. Tiger said to me that the GRA, prior to 2017, when the GRA decided to audit the Mohammeds, they actually set up an office in the building of the Mohammeds on Lombard Street to conduct those audits. I want y'all share this live to Azruddin Mohammed, Nazar Mohammed, Odessa Primus, Duarte Hesburger, the liar Jordan or Jordu name. I don't know the liar. I can't pronounce his name. Forgive me, sorry for destroying your name. I apologize. So, I want you to understand this. The GRA had an office set up in the Mohammed's building prior. According to Tiger, the GRA had an office set up inside Mohammed's building on Lombard Street prior to 2017 to conduct audits of their accounts and their financial transactions. Now, from within the walls, directly within the walls of the Mohammeds, the GRA conducted an extensive, complete audit of all their financial transactions. However, the investigation into the Mohammeds by the US authorities is understood to have originated since in the middle of 2010. Let me go back there. What I just said. Let me get it again. The US is saying that their original investigation into the Mohammeds started in 2010. Listen, I'm telling you stuff here. Nobody ever come and give you all this. Because I got the whole man. I got Tiger. The US started the investigation into the Mohammeds since 2010. From between sometime after 2010, before 2017, GRA established an office in the Mohammeds to audit them. During the same time, the US investigated Mohammeds. But the GRA conducted all the investigations and all the audits, and they claimed that they found nothing wrong with the Mohammeds' financial transactions and the Mohammeds' financial activities. The GRA find nothing wrong, but the US find something wrong. But then the GRA then turn around now to ask the US to give them the information what they find. Now if you use GRA Godfrey Stacia, Mr. Stacia, the Commissioner General of GRA, answer this. Answer this. Right? Now, I said to you guys, when I come here, I present facts, that which I can prove. A lot of people are going to come and say, oh, but the size 2017 to 2024. Listen, the US, the original investigation by the United States started since in the middle of 2010. All those naysayers who are going to come and say, but what the news say, and what the liars say, and what GRA say, and what US say, listen. Go and do proper investigative research, and you'll find that the US started the investigation into the financial dealings of the Mohammed since in the middle of 2010. So anybody I come and find in the comments, if I don't check comments when I do in my life, I wait till I done. If I check my comments and I see some regular stupidity, the diseased person come to talk nonsense, trust me, I'm going to embarrass you. I'm going to embarrass you terribly. Because a lot of you, like I said, when I started this live, I said there's a lot of tabloidism. I clearly said it. There's a lot of tabloidism. I clearly said that Guyana stands at crossroads between transparency and tabloidism. So what I'm doing here in this live, I am dispelling the tabloidism and giving you transparent, factual information as I always do. There is no other social media personality. There's no media personality in any one of the local news agencies or any newspaper is going to tell you what I'm here to tell you today. So far, the facts that I've outlined here to you that you can go and verify and prove yourself, none of them have given this to you. So all of those who are going to come to talk the nonsense in the comments, y'all be careful. Be very careful. You're treading on thin ice there with me. Right? So, how come is it that today the very same GRA is making allegations of income tax evasion by the Mohammeds when they're the ones who conducted audits from within, directly from within the confines of the Mohammeds building, within the very same period of the US investigations, and they found no fraud. They opened an office in Mohammed's building on Lombard Street, according to Tiger, and they did all their financial audits. This is prior 2017. The US investigation started since in 2010. The initial beginning of the investigation is 2010. However, the US is claiming that these recent current financial charges and breaches that they make is between 2017 and 2027, but they started investigation since 2010. GRA was established in Mohammed's building, conduct audits of all the financial transactions, but then we find nothing or no indication of any future or possibility of a financial irregularity. So the GRA has to be called into question here. Right? So I'm saying to you, should the GRA have discovered any and all discrepancies, any potential financial malpractice that could lead to financial fraud, when they had an entire office set up inside the Mohammed building from within which they conducted the audits? The Mohammeds even buy lunch for them. When they had the office, listen, when GRA had the thing set up in there, let me tell you something, according to Tiger, the Mohammeds even purchased meals for them every day, and at the end of the whole process, Mohammeds give the persons who work there an extra, according to Tiger. Right? According to Tiger. The Mohammeds even give the GRA staff who work inside the building an extra at the end of the entire process. Right? So, Tiger is the former accountant and business administrator for the Mohammeds. Tiger is also the former Huwala man for the Mohammeds. And I always come here and I speak proudly, formally, confidently about the information that I receive from Tiger, because I am waiting one day and I'm hoping one day that the Mohammeds can come forward and refute and deny anything that I said here or before what Tiger have disclosed to me. I'm waiting for that day. I'm praying for that day. Let them try it. And I know this here is what I'm doing right now here is in the favor of the Mohammed. I'm actually giving them favor because I'm exposing the lies and the deception of the GRA. What I'm doing here right now is exposing the lies and the deception of the GRA. You understand? So, let's move on. Let's move on. So, I would like the GRA Commissioner General, Mr. Godfrey Stacia, to respond to this statement by the alleged former accountant of the Mohammeds known as Tiger. I would like you to respond to what Tiger has said to me, sir. So, that's my confidential, reliable source. Reliable source is Tiger. So, anyways, what is most important and must be carefully considered is the fact that the GRA actions are civil administrative and not criminal proceedings. Unless GRA or the US, right, can prove fraud in a court, the GRA disputes does not automatically translate into an extraditable offense. So anything the GRA brings to the Mohammeds, they have to show tangible legal connection of fraud to whatever the America want them to be extradited for in order for GRA to extradite, bring the case in the court and use it in the extradition case. GRA ain't got no case. Now, the GRA charged the Mohammeds, Azzuddin, and took them to court and then dropped the charges. I want you guys to understand what is happening there. I will try to explain it a bit later, but let me give you a hint on what's happening there. If the US has credible evidence against the Mohammeds to extradite them, in order for them to be extradited in a clean flow, in a hiccup-less process, they cannot or should not have any other pending legal matters in the country of origin. So the GRA dropping the charges had to come from some form of communication from the US to the Ministry of Home Affairs, to the Attorney General, to Godfrey Stacia to say, listen, pull back them charges. What we're doing, you need to free them of that in order for us to grab them where we want them. Do not take them to court. Do not charge them for anything. Drop the charges. We will deal with it from our end. Because what also happened, as I just said, as I just explained, the GRA charges cannot be tangibly connected to the extradition charges. So basically, those GRA charges don't have no rigidity on this entire case. They're not criminal because they have to prove it. They have to prove fraud in the court. And GRA, obviously, to my understanding, they realize that they cannot do that. They don't have the resources to do that. So the GRA charges cannot translate into extraditable offenses. So the US, through the negotiations with the Ministry of Home Affairs and the Attorney General Adel Nadlal, would have said to Stacia, drop the charges. So those charges being dropped, that's why those charges were dropped. If no one else have explained it to you that way, I hope that a little bit of explanation makes some kind of sense to you. If you don't get it, just at the end of the live, play back, go back to that part and play it back. Right? So I want you to understand so far. I will get into it here. I will get into it here later in this presentation. But so far, what I did not say from the beginning, what I should say right now, that Mr. Mohammed is not a criminal. Let me say that again. Nazar Mohammed and Azzuddin Mohammed are not criminals. If you have any understanding of the legislations and the legal proceedings and processes, you would understand you cannot call them criminals. First thing to understand, a crime by Black's Law Dictionary definition, has to result in harm against someone or some other acknowledgeable living entity. And to my understanding and my knowledge of what a crime is, the Mohammeds, Nazar Mohammed and Azudi Mohammed, have not committed any crime. For those of you who want to challenge that, I would direct you to Black's Law Dictionary. Look for the definition of the word crime in Black's Law Dictionary, or speak to an extremely learned and competent lawyer, and they'll tell you the Mohammeds are not criminals. They have not been found guilty of a crime, so they are not criminals. So all these persons who are labeling Mohammeds, father and son, as criminals, I will say to you, desist. Desist from doing it. I said to you, I'm here for transparency and to dispel tabloidism. The tabloidism is what Barra Jagdeo, Anil Nandlal, and the opposition members and all of these AFC, APNU people in America, when they do the live shows and they're doing their presentation and they're saying that these people are criminals. When and where were they ever convicted and or sentenced, reprimanded and or discharged for a crime? If they have not been charged, reprimanded and or discharged by any court of law for a crime, then they are not criminals. Let me get that clear. Y'all cut this part of anybody tell you Mohammeds are criminals, y'all cut that part of the video and you send it to the person telling them that. Say, this is my response to you. You send that to them. Right? You send that to them. I told you guys, tag Mr. Mohammed, tag Odessa Primus, tag Duarte Borgo, tag anyone in the Mohammed's family. Let them come and watch this video, because this video I am representing and I am defending the Mohammeds. Y'all hear me? In this video, based upon all legislative processes, all legal factions in play, I am using what I am learning, what I've also learned, and I'm making a defense here for the Mohammeds. Now, me making a defense for the Mohammeds doesn't mean I'm a Win supporter. I am not a Win member or Win party supporter. I am just presenting the facts. I said to you guys, I present the facts. You obviously me, I come and bash Jack Dio, I come and bash Amanzo and thing, I bash everybody. But if people are twisting the narrative of a conversation like what Amanza did, I come and I address you. So right now, people are twisting the narrative of the conversation surrounding the Mohammeds and they're calling them criminals. The Mohammeds are not criminals. That is an allegation. That is a presumption. That is a person's opinion. There is no evidence, validated evidence, that says Mohammed are criminals. Right? So y'all get that through y'all head. Y'all get that through y'all head. Now, there are a number of viral videos and articles. I see some vlogs all over the place that's sparking a lot of global debate about the Mohamed's extradition to the US and the GRA tax case in Guyana. Right? A number of recent videos are circulating across Guyanese social media platforms and numerous global media platforms with claims that prominent local businessmen, the Mohammed's family, are facing possible extradition to the United States linked to alleged tax evasion and gold trading irregularities and political connections to Nicolas Maduro. This thing about Nicolas Maduro, I am tired of these APNU, AFC, PPP propagandists that coming and spew all these. Anyway, I'll get into it. Don't let me get too worked up. I'll get into it further down in this conversation. Anyway, now the tone. The problem is the tone of the presentations are very sensational. Grasping the energy, the attention of the people. You know, they take on these traditional format of mixing speculation and partial truths and open-ended allegations. But they fail, all of them fail to anchor a solid narrative in current legal facts. Let me say that again. All of these sensational presenters right now, they fail to anchor solid narrative in current legal facts. That's why at the beginning of this thing, I explained to you what is legal, I explained what is legislative. I had to, in order for you to follow the conversation, I have to give you definitions and explain to you, so as we come down, you will understand what I am saying. Now, I'll just mention a few of these media that I am currently very much annoyed and disappointed with. Thomas Anderson. Yeah, attack Thomas Anderson. Tag the man is compound the live all in the morning, 6 o'clock or 7 o'clock. Thomas Anderson. There's one of the persons that's sensationalizing the media with negativity, false allegations, unprovable allegations against Mohamed. Thomas Anderson is one. The Guyanese critic. Yeah, tag he come and watch and hear what he's saying. The Guyanese critic is one. They got this guy, used to call himself Dr. Love back in the days, uncensored Guyanese or uncensored Guyana. He used to call himself Dr. Love. Look, if ever there was a person of indigenous origin, of melanated indigenous origin, who don't know who they are, that guy, uncensored Guyana, Dr. Love, wherever. Attorney General Anil Nandalal Barjatio and Orphan Ali, the fraudster. These people, they're using the state media and specific private media houses that support their party to sensationalize the falsities in their propaganda about the Mohammeds and the Mohammeds case. Right? Now let's unpack what's real, what's exaggerated, and what's simply not possible under Guyanese and US law. Let me unpack and we get into what is legal, what is possible, what is not possible, right? What being exaggerated, right? Let's get into it. The extradition question: can the Mohammeds be extradited? That's one of the questions in the topic for tonight. Can the Mohammeds be extradited? Now let's look at Guyana's extradition law. A fact check. Here is fact check for you. Guyana's extradition system is governed primarily by our Extradition Act, which is referred to as Chapter 1004. Now this act is basically bilateral treaties that they inherited and amended after independence. They inherited it from the British. The United States Guyana Extradition Treaty reaffirmed in 1990, in the 90s, sometime in the 90s, but it's 1990 sometime, right? And it allows for the extradition only of offenses recognized as crimes in both countries. Now you hear the Dujan, the lie name, right? Dujan and some other persons talk about something called dual criminality principle. Now, in order for the extradition treaty to work, you have to have what you call dual criminality principle. Let me use a very simple one. I'm here in the US. In the US, smoking marijuana is legal. Cultivation of marijuana is also legal. Selling of marijuana at a shop is also legal. But as I said, there's certain legal processes. Remember I told you illegal. If something is legal, it requires a contract, right? If something is legal, it has to get a contract. So therefore, these individuals have to enter into a legal agreement with the government. The government gives them a legal contractual permission to establish a farm, to plant marijuana, to open a shop with a license to sell the marijuana, and then you can obtain certain medical prescription rights, legal documents, where you can purchase marijuana. Or in some states, most states, you have a certain quantity where you could just go and buy and smoke wherever you feel like. Even on the train, you could smoke. Inside your yard, outside, you still going to smoke. Police can't do you nothing. Right? So, in Guyana now, it's illegal to cultivate. We don't have any legal, no contracts that we give to our people to say, well, yeah, you can go ahead and cultivate marijuana. We don't have that legality. There is no legislation of that matter whereby it makes it possible for you to cultivate, package, and then commercialize your marijuana. It is illegal, right? There's no contractual arrangement in the form of a legislation that approves it. That's why I explained what's legislation and legal earlier. Those who missed it, go back to the beginning, you'll see where we're going with this. So, notice I'm not saying nothing about law. I said law don't exist. So, notice I'm not talking anything about law. I'm talking about legislation, what's legal. So, dual criminality is this. In Guyana, we have what you call, in our constitution, we have what we call the psychotropic law. The psychotropic law is what determines how much marijuana you can have in your possession, where you can have it, and how you can use it. If you can cultivate or if you cannot cultivate. If you can sell or if you cannot sell. If you can export or not export. That's called the psychotropic law in Guyana. So similarly, dual criminality principle is in the US they have their laws, but they have specific legal arrangements, specific contracts that allows you to cultivate it, package and commercialize it to a certain extent, and also use it in your home environment and otherwise to a certain extent. So America has a psychotropic law. Guyana does have a psychotropic law. But as I explained in the beginning, the two countries are two corporations. And these two corporations must have similar terms of contractual policies. They must have similar contractual policies. So if Guyana's psychotropic law differs very far away from the US psychotropic law, then therefore those terms of contractual policies does not agree. Therefore there cannot be any form of extradition. If someone commits a crime, that form of illegal activity, rather not crime, illegal activity, because a crime explained to you, crime has to get physical harm. And one person cannot be charged for a crime if there is no physical harm. So you have the onus on the accuser to prove harm, right? So you cannot be extradited if the terms of the contractual policies does not coincide, right? Hold on there. What are you telling me? It does not coincide. Right? No. Right? My mom is asking me if I'm not giving you too much information for one sitting. Now, listen. My mom is, I said to you in the last video, she's a former educator, she's a former journalist, former editor of newspaper of the she's a former politician and all these things. And when I start to do stuff like this, she's cutting and she's telling me, hey, this is too much for now. Stop. I'm not gonna stop. I'll give them some more. I got like 3 more points. I got like 2 more points to give them, and then she want me to stop. Adamaris, somebody tag Adamaris. Somebody please tag if you have Adamaris as your friend list. Tag Adamaris, right? So you must have dual criminality. I had to explain that to you guys. If dual criminality does not exist, and so far the lawyers for the Mohammeds of the extradition order came true. We know the extradition order came true, and they got him into the magistrate court. And the fact that he was not extradited, the fact that they had to release him on bail, the arguments that his lawyers put forward, Najee Hughes, Dojan, Dexter Todd, I think Darren Wade was there with them. These lawyers put forward arguments. Vera was there. These arguments that the lawyers put forward is listen, right? There is most of these charges, like the wire fraud and this, we don't have these laws in Guyana. And if we do not have it, therefore means the corporate terms of the corporate contractual terms in the policies does not exist. They do not coincide. Therefore, you cannot be extradited. It's that simple. It's just one corporation asking another corporation to give me one of your employees who went over in my building and committed damaged a piece of property, and he's saying to you, listen, your policies don't apply to my policies. My policies are different from yours. no, I'm not sending him. You can't get him, right? So a country also has a right to refuse to extradite a citizen, right? I'll get into that in the video I told you guys I'm going to post under Harpy. Remember, go to my media page of Harpy and follow there, because I will do an in-depth explanation of the law over there. I will be quoting each one of the laws related to this entire process, and what more in depth, what can be done, what cannot be done, and how it can be done. I'll be doing it over there. Now, let's move on. My mom is saying move on. She wants me to quit, but I gotta get through this quickly. Now, tax or customs related violations are typically not extraditable unless they are tied to money laundering, wire fraud, or narcotics offenses. I already explained that earlier, that the charges that GRA is putting forward against the Mohammeds, they are not linked to, and they cannot prove it's linked to wire fraud. They cannot prove right now, based upon the information that's out there, they cannot prove that it's literally linked to any of the charges that the Americans are charging them for. So they are not extraditable charges, right? So even if the US had concerns regarding unreported transactions or financial irregularities involving the Mohammeds, an extradition request would require evidence linking those facts to criminal conduct under US law, not just tax disputes in Guyana. So if they want to charge, if they want to extradite them for any tax evasion violation laws or criminal irregularities in Guyana, similarly again, you must have dual criminality principle for that, and it must be applicable in US law in order for them to request an extradition for that. And of course, there is no dual criminality there, so they cannot be extradited for that. Now, I want you guys to understand the whole gist behind this thing quickly. I want to just go through it back quickly. This thing, the extradition, I want to go through it back quickly. The extradition was on the 30th of October 2025. The government of Guyana received a request. It says the government of Guyana received a request from the United States for the extradition of the two Mohammeds pursuant to extradition treaty and the United States, America, and United Kingdom, which extends to Guyana under the provisions of Section 4(1)(a) of the Fugitive Offender Act, Chapter 1001, as amended by number 10 of 2024. Now, for those persons who always come and say, well, you know about law, listen, I just quote all the laws there that refers to the extradition process, right? So I always ensure that I give you the facts. You want to question the information of what I'm presenting to you, I'm telling you where I got it from. I got it from Section 4(1)(a) of the Fugitive Offender Act, Chapter 1004, and it was amended by Act number 10 of 2024 when Anel Nandalal and the US Marshals, whoever, they had a little meeting, and they did the new treaty that they did. That was just recently, 2024, where Anel Nandalal tried to do something with somebody, speed up the extradition process of people. So these GRA tax allegations, what really happened with them, right? The Guyana Revenue Authority case, as it is right now, explained that already to you in the beginning, right? The Guyana Revenue Authority has periodically audited high-value exporters, including gold dealers, right? And construction magnates like the Mohammeds. And the Mohammeds, of course, have faced GRA reviews for tax and evaluation discrepancies, as explained to you what Tiger told me, right? But as stated at the beginning of this presentation, a very important point to note, according to Tiger, is the fact that just a few years prior to the period under which is in question, because I said to you, the actual thing started in 2010. US investigation started in 2010. So just before 2017, which is the actual period under investigation, the GRA actually had an office set up. If you missed in the beginning, you hear now. The GRA, just prior to 2017, the GRA had offices set up inside the Mohammeds building on Lombard Street, where they conducted extensive, complete audits of all financial transactions, arrangements, and activities of the Mohammeds. However, the investigation into the Mohammeds by the U.S. authorities is understood to have originated since in mid-2010. So the U.S. investigating Mohammed's beginning, they started since in middle of 2010. GRA was do financial audits and internal financial activity tax audits of the Mohammeds prior, just little bit before 2017. They had offices in the Mohammed building. Then the US come after 2017 and say, hey, during this period of time, this we did this. So the GRA never found nothing, even though they had offices set up in the Mohammed's building, and they did all these tax audits. The work was done so well, and there was no discrepancies to the point where the Mohammeds even give the GRA workers a little extra. You understand? So Tiger also told me, I forgot to mention this, but it's really relevant in this conversation. Tiger also told me that during the 2015 elections, it was the Mohammed who gave the APNU or PNC, you want to call them, and he also gave the PVP, both of them, Mohammed's family gave. Tiger said, reliable source that gives me my information, Tiger said, that during the 2015 campaign elections, Mohammed's family gave to the APNU, AFC, PNCR, PPP, gave both of them equal amounts of $50 million to campaign. Then Tiger came back and said, boy, he's sure about the 50 million, but it could be up to 100 million each. I don't know how relevant it is in this conversation, but it just popped up as Tiger said that the Mohammeds paid for the APNU and the PP campaign back in 2015. That's what Tiger said. They got 50 million each, and to his understanding, it's more. They got more than 50 million each. And here's the same people. Imagine this man. Imagine the Mohammeds pay for the election. Hey, Jack Dio, Ali, yeah, there's something else, boy. I said to you guys, tag the Mohammeds, tag Odesso, tag Duarte, tag Mohammed's lies. I'm here today to defend the Mohammeds. I'm defending the Mohammeds today. Right? I'm defending the Mohammeds today. So, all of this is information that has been hidden and suppressed away from the public by the PPPC. And they have agents. I wrote an article about political agents since back in 2020, 2021. It's in my Facebook page. You guys can go back and look for that. I wrote about different categories and types of political agents and how they function, what are their responsibilities and what they do. I will come back here and I read it another time. And I do a reread of it for you to understand how the agents operate, who are their handlers, and what are their roles and responsibilities in the entire political party and so on. Right? Yeah, brown bag. I just see something come up there by London say a brown bag. Yes, GRA workers got a brown bag, some brown bag from Mohammed's when they finished the audit back prior to 2017. So now, how come the GRA today is the very same GRA is making these allegations of income tax evasion by the Mohammeds when they conducted audits from within the confines of the Mohammeds building within the same period the US investigation was ongoing? How GRA now come for say fraud, and then when they did the investigations and the stuff back then, they didn't find nothing, but they come now for say fraud. Look, GRA, y'all need to get your stuff together. Again, should they have discovered any and all discrepancies and potential illegal practices that could have led to financial fraud when they had an entire office set up inside the building? I asked you this guys before, it's the same thing. It's one question. So there is where I would come out and say convenient amnesia by the GRA. This is basically convenient amnesia by the GRA. They forgot that they had an office set up in the Mohammed's building. GRA forgot Godfrey Stacia and whichever other commissioner was there before you. Y'all forget that y'all had an office set up in the Mohammed's building and y'all did all your financial audits and tax evaluations of Mohammed transactions, and y'all didn't find no discrepancy. Y'all didn't find a discrepancy, but all of a sudden now y'all come here and find discrepancies. Convenient amnesia. GRA got convenient amnesia. I call on the Commissioner General Godfrey Stacia to answer that allegation made by Tiger. Tiger said that y'all were there, y'all established offices in the building, and y'all did audits. So if y'all did audits and y'all found nothing, how come y'all now come back and say, what, yeah, the US give you information? Y'all had office in the building, in the business. Y'all had an office in the building, in the business, every day, all day, conducting audits of all financial transactions. How we all didn't find no discrepancies, but then the US would have tell whoever, we ain't got no office in the building, but in a whole different jurisdiction, they find information for send to y'all for say the man evade taxes. Y'all focus here, GRA. GRA, where y'all think? People stupid out here. Y'all think Guyanese, all Guyanese are just delusional and believe in the lies and mediocrity of Barajantio? You think all of us are following the nincompoop orphan alley? We got competent, intelligent people out here who can rationalize situations effectively. We have people like me who can do proper investigative journalism and come and present facts like this to expose your stupidity and your lies and your deception. What's wrong with you guys? Come on, y'all better focus and get your shit together, man. Nonsense. Nonetheless, the GRA alleges that the Mohammeds are involved in customs-related violations connected to an alleged US $50 million in gold export and tax evasion scheme. The GRA has charged, arrested, and taken Mohamed to court for these allegations, but have subsequently dropped the charges, as I explained before, and explained to you why those charges were dropped. Right? Now, let me deal with this on a different level. Y'all, bear with me on this one now. Quickly, bear with me on this one. Right? Hear this one. GRA, or the Guyana government, however, according to a 2021 report by the Institute of Energy, Economics and Financial Analysis, the EEFA, tax concessions for ExxonMobil, Hess, and Sinnoc were estimated to at least $1.7 billion over a 5-year period. More recently, ExxonMobil was granted tax waiver amounting to over $1.3 billion for the year of 2024 alone. Now, while the PPP government of Guyana continues to harass, while the PPPC government of Guyana continue to molest, harass, and disrespect a respected young man, an entrepreneur, one of Guyana's greatest entrepreneurs, a current, established, known philanthropist, and is also the new opposition leader of parliament. They have consciously, while they are harassing this man for $50 million US, PPP have consciously waived over $3 billion US in taxes to US oil companies. Now you are harassing. The very same PPP government have literally given away monies that belong to us, to Guyanese citizens, to US companies. They give away our money, over $3 billion US of our money. They waive in taxes that's supposed to come to us, the Guyanese people. They waive $3 billion US from these companies. But they are harassing Mohamed for $50 million US in taxes. The money that they waive and robbing, depriving Guyanese of is 60 times more. 60 times more than the money that they are harassing Mohamed for. They give all them waivers in taxes. Now the ExxonMobil is under investigation by the US government. Yes, ExxonMobil is under investigation by the US government because the US government is asking them, you claim that you pay taxes. Which taxes you paid? When the US Guyana government is saying that we waive the taxes and the Guyana government basically paid your taxes. So how is ExxonMobil reporting to the US government that they pay taxes? Y'all see corruption all around with Barajagdi and Orphan Ali? Yeah? Y'all see the corruption with the US companies? They waive 60 times the amount of money that they are harassing their own citizens for. And listen, these charges were not brought against Mohammeds by Guyana, you know. It's charges brought against Mohammeds by America. Yeah. Make them make sense. Make them make sense. Now, within all these allegations, the evidence in the US sanctions has directly stated that the entire process was facilitated by corrupt GRA officials. Now let's get into the corrupt GRA officials, and I'm going to bring this video to a close as fast as I can. Because, as the mother said, I'm going a little long, but I got to get this one out. You guys haven't seen me for a while. I apologize. I'm here now, and I want to get this particular one out. So, the US said that their GRA officials that facilitated the entire scheme. Let me ask this question. How and why haven't those GRA officials been indicted and extradition requests made for them along with the Mohammeds by the US? Y'all answer the question for me, man. Answer in the comments. Y'all send the question to Barra Jabdio. Send the question to Anil Nandalat. If the US mentioned in their report, they clearly said that the evidence in the US sanction, the evidence in this clearly claimed to state that the processes were facilitated by corrupt GRA officials. How come the very same America was saying that they get corrupt GRA officials there? How come when they did they charge the indictment, they didn't indict the customs officers at the same time? How come they do an extradition request for customs officers at the same time? This is the point where I say it with me, political targeting. This is the point we say it again, political targeting. Mr. Azzuddin Mohammed, Mr. Nazar Shell Mohammed. Let me tell you this. I come here many times and I attack you, but in this video I'm defending you. You understand me? Everything that's happening throughout this entire process shows political victimization, political targeting. It shows jealousy. It shows envy. It shows greed. By Barra Jabdio, Orphan Ali, Anil Nanlal, and the executive of the PPP. This is what it shows. All of the agents, the political agents, and their US and Canadian, UK, all the foreign partners who are supporting them attacking this family. I'm here today to say this video is in support of the Mohammeds. I'm here to highlight the incompetence and the falsities and the processes and the activities of GRA. I'm here to highlight the double standard of the US government with their indictments and their extradition orders. So, let's have a final look at the US extradition law, the request, right, and how it is filtered. It's a very simple, straightforward thing. For those of you who don't know, the US have what you call it the DOJ, the Department of Justice, and they also have what you call the State Department, right? Which between these two organizations, you must have what you call a reciprocity. Whatever they do, it must go back and forth between these two organizations for it to be done. So the requests would need to show probable cause. Here's the confusion with the extradition and Mohammed's being arrested on the 30th and taken to court. The US sent an extradition request, but this request from the DOJ and Department of State have to show probable cause that the Mohammeds violated US statutes, right? Like, for example, money laundering, right? So this indictment has to show that. And if this indictment shows that Mohammed violated US statutes, then therefore, these requests to extradite the Mohammeds, like I said, you must have dual criminality. Whatever statutes they claim that Mohammed's violated in America, you must have dual criminality principle in Guyana. So if US say that you violated these statutes and these legislations in our country, these things that you engage in were illegal in our country, and we're indicting you for these, and we requested an extradition for you to be brought to America to try in a Florida court, then that extradition request will have that probable cause listed inside there. And those probable cause must B, must those corporate contractual terms in the policy, I said to you earlier, remember I had to explain it in the beginning, the corporate terms in the policy, the corporate contractual policy terms must be the same or similar in nature in Guyana. So, I said before, I say it again. It's obvious so far that most of these statutes that they're claiming that the Mohammed's breach in America does not apply in the policy in the corporation called Republic of Guyana, Cooperative Republic of Guyana. So, the 11 count indictment against Nazar and Azli Mohammed was unsealed in a federal grant in a jury in Southern District of Florida on October 6, 2025. The case number, those of you who like this information, the case number is 25-CR-20441 bracket Williams/let L-E-T-T. For those of you who like to have those type of information, I said the case number for the 11 count of indictment against Nazar and Azli Mohammed in the federal court in Southern District of Florida, the case number is 25-CR/20441. Now this is public information. You can get this online. You can just basically do a search and get this type of information online. So don't feel I'm breaching anybody's privacy or anything. This is public information. It's a case filed in a public court. So it's public information. Anyone can have it, and I'm not using it. I'm not using it here for harm or any negative intent. I am just sharing it with those persons who might be interested in following the case. Because these things, they have special websites you can go and follow the cases. Right? So the charges include multiple offenses such as wire fraud, mail fraud, money laundering, and conspiracy related to an alleged US $50 million gold export and tax evasion scheme. The US government has submitted formal requests for the extradition of the Mohammeds, and so far that extradition has not been forthwith. Mohammeds have been released, they're out on bail, and who knows what's going to happen next. Now let's clear the air. Let's be clear on this, right? Let's be clear on this and clear the air. All that was done with no mention. All these processes and all these filings and all these indictments, all the extradition, as I said before, all of that was done with no request, no filings of any case against the GRA officials who America themselves identified as member or part and parcel of the entire situation. So there has been no filings for the GRA officials who facilitated the entire process. And I say again, with that information, I say to you again, political targeting. The Mohammeds are being targeted politically. Now, finally, we got to wrap up this thing. We're going to look at the Maduro connection. Truth or political fiction? Maduro connection. Is this truth or political fiction? I watched a video with presenter Thomas Anderson. This guy who comes online early in the morning. I was scrolling through my feed and I saw him there, Thomas Anderson. Within this video, he repeatedly made bold claims, presumptions, allegations, and peddling information that there might be a possibility of the Mohammeds being directly or indirectly tied to Nicolas Maduro or Venezuela's state-linked financial operations based in the information circulating in the public domain. Now, the fact is this. Let's do the fact check. The fact check is this. From my investigations into Venezuelan connections, from all information I've checked online, and a few people I had to speak to directly in Guyana and by the man side, right? The Mohammeds have engaged in cross-border trading, including business with Brazilian and Venezuelan intermediaries during times of regional shortages of coal. Mohammed evidence, the evidence is out there that the Mohammeds have engaged in financial business transactions and activities with other business people and organizations from Brazil and Venezuela. Right? However, there is no current public evidence of fact that have surfaced in the US Treasury, which is OFAC sanctions, within Guyana, the Bank of Guyana, and any financial agency in Guyana, any local Guyanese bulletin, any international intelligence agencies, Interpol or CIA or FBI, none of these people have released any information linking the family of the companies of Mohammed to Maduro regime, or what we call the PDVSA financial networks. So, Mr. Tom, somebody please tag Thomas Anderson right now for me. Please tag Thomas Anderson. If you have him as a friend, tag Mr. Thomas Anderson. And let's make it clear to Thomas Anderson, the APNU agent in America, who is peddling, Thomas Anderson is sensationalizing his podcasts, his presentations, and his narrative, trying to give the APNU AFC supporters overseas and in Guyana and the world and the people who follow him, trying to sensationalize them with tabloidism, building a false narrative that the Mohammeds are directly connected to Venezuelan illegal financial agencies and or directly to Nicolas Maduro. So, please, as I said before, the man is not a criminal. The man is not a criminal. Somebody, I think I just see something, somebody asking for the case number. I have it written down here. The case number is, for the person asking for the case number. I saw someone say about the case number. Virgil Eswick. The case number is 25 hyphen, it's a hyphen, right? The / in the middle. 25 hyphen CR, that's CR hyphen 20441 brackets Williams / LET. Right? I say it again. The case number is 25 hyphen CR hyphen 2044 bracket Williams / LETT. That is the case number for the Mohammeds, right? The case that is filed in the Southern District Court of Florida. It's there on October 6, 2025, right? So let's get back to dealing with Thomas Anderson and his nonsense and all these other AP and AFC. Now, let me tell you this. What do exist are rumors. What do exist are rumors by political opposition and their agents, fueled by Guyana-Venezuela border tensions and social media narratives. They often blend business success with political conspiracy. So in the Mohammed's case, these politically indoctrinated, dogmatic, old-fashioned, narrow-minded, self-serving dinosaurs. Let me say that again. Those persons who are taken to social media to label the Mohammeds as an associate and direct partner and in a relationship with criminal relationship or illegal relationship with Maduro, those persons are politically indoctrinated, dogmatic, old-fashioned, narrow-minded, self-serving dinosaurs who just learned how to create a social media account and are attempting to negatively influence the young generation with their colonial and socialist political entrapment tactics. Let me tell y'all something. Right? Be careful with these US, Canadian, overseas social media presenters. I'm in the US. You gotta be careful with me too. But like I said, I always present the facts. But like those These people, you got to look for those self-serving PNCR, APNU, AFC hypocrites. You got to look for them. You guys hear me come attacking Jack Dio, right? Attacking PEP, right? But right now in this video, I'm defending Mohamed and I'm attacking the political agents of the APNU, AFC, PNCR. I'm attacking those hypocrites because these are the ones who are peddling the false narratives and calling a man a criminal and trying to criminalize the man. Trying to degrade and destroy the man's character. These are the people. The APNU, PNCR, AFC hypocrites, I call them. Don't listen to them. Y'all don't listen to them. You hear what I tell you? If they don't have facts, if they don't present to you facts to verify and validate what they're saying, don't listen to them. These hypocrites are exceptionally skilled in creating very evil and vile commentaries to persuade the common man into mental confusion and confuffled decision making. Whenever they air their podcasts or their live programs, go into the comment section and ask them to present the facts. From the time they start saying that Mohamed's linked to Maduro and Mohamed's is involved in cocaine smuggling, and go in the comments and ask them to present the facts. This is what you got to do. Go in the comments and tell them present your facts. Y'all be sure to call them out. Call them out. Right? Call them out for the biased partisan political tactics and commentaries. Call them out right off the bat. Especially Thomas Anderson. Call you out. Right? From time come and say, but Mohamed and the US Senator said that Mohamed linked to the Maduro regime. Call it and say, Mr. Thompson, present your facts. Thomas Anderson, present your facts. Stop talking and quoting bullshit. Y'all understand where these things is coming from? These things is coming from the PPC government in Guyana, you know. They're the people who started because they have a lobby firm who works on their behalf to peddle these things across social media. Right? Now, the final context on the matter, economic and political layers of this entire thing. It's not a secret that the Mohamed's wealth, influence, and visibility in construction, real estate, and gold trading make them lightning rods for public debate. This is not no secret to nobody. These people wealth and Mohamed's coming out and being visible to the world, to Guyana and the world, to show the progress of the family is what brings about all this public debate. Right? In Guyana's polarized political environment, you gotta understand that the narratives of corruption, foreign connections, or hidden protection tend to gain traction easy. Soon as somebody says, well, oh, he connected to this foreign agency, oh, he connected to this drugs man, this way is gain attention quick, and this is what these people are doing. They're using these terms and these slangs in their podcast to draw your attention, to get you. Don't be fooled, don't be tricked, don't worry with them. Right? Now, here are a few final pointers for you. Before we share or believe sensational headlines, you must verify the law. And I came to this video and I started this video by telling you what is legal, what is law, what is legislation, and show you how it ties into the case, how to speak. At the beginning of this presentation, I said I'm going to teach you the language. And I went into explaining the legal language and certain specific terminologies, and I showed you how it falls into play into the Mohamed's case. Right? So, you must verify it. Not every crime or tax audit equals to an extradition. Right? So whatever they're telling you, don't believe them. Because not every crime that's committed, every act a person commits, it could be extradited. Not every business trip overseas is treason. You understand? Not every time if a man visits the embassy, doesn't mean committing treason. I could visit any embassy I want. It means I'm a terrorist. It means I'm committing treason. I am free to go wherever I want. Why are they labeling the Mohammeds? Oh, so even if they got the video with the father going in or coming out of the embassy, that's the man's free will and right. He could visit any embassy he chooses at any time. Why is it a big issue? Why are these AP and AFCP and CR freaking agents publicizing this thing as though it's a crime? Anybody could visit any embassy at any time as they feel. We're gonna happen if you see Aubrey Norton visiting the Venezuelan embassy. They're gonna say, oh, Aubrey Norton got ties to Maduro. Come on. Y'all focus and see the stupidity in these people's statements. Anybody could visit the embassy, Banner. Let me tell you something. Not every rumor equals to a fact. Not every rumor equals to a fact. Only by way of a legal proceeding, the court must decide guilt and punishment. You can't say a man committed a crime or illegal act unless a court prove him guilty and decide on his punishment. Only then you can say, yeah, he's considered a felon, he's a felon, or he's a criminal. Yeah, be careful. Now, some of those sensational viral videos from people like the Guyanese critic I mentioned before, Sam Thomas Anderson, Rickford Bork, Randa Bob, John Thompson, many of these overseas people, yeah, be careful with these people. Just be careful with these people, right? Social media presentation carries a tone that may often fuel outrage and incite political targeting. And Rickford Bork is my friend. Rickford Bork is my friend. But when I watch Rickford Bork live and I read Rickford Bork posts, Rickford Bork posts carry a certain tone that may often fuel outrage and incite political targeting, racial discrimination, and negative cultural labeling. But at the same time, the presentation, it lacks a foundation of legal and evidentiary backing. Like the other day, Rickford Bork come out and make a statement that the GRA commissioners cannot be removed. They cannot be removed. And so I wrote an article contrary to that, saying yes, they can be removed. And I quoted the law. You see, Rickford made this big article and he posted it out there. These people, I said to you, Rickford is my friend. I know him personally. I visit his home, he visit my home. We go together and eat together personally. I know him personally. So when Rickford make a post like that without any legal footing, without any foundation in legality, I had to rebuke him. And I rebutted his article with my own article. Because you can't say the commissioners of GCOM can't be removed. So I quoted every law and every possible legal policy with article within the law that says how and who and why they can be removed. So that basically dispel Rickford Bork propaganda. This we call, they talk about sensationalized tabloidism. This is what they're doing. And they need to stop. They need to stop this nonsense. You understand me? So the extradition process between Guyana and the United States remains tightly governed, and currently there are a number of charges against Mohamed that are not within dual criminality. This is why what I want you to take away today is that many of the charges that has been placed against the Mohammeds does not exist within the dual criminality principle between Guyana and the US. So many of the charges, Mohammeds cannot be extradited for them. Right? So US will try it out. Until official and final sanctions of a US extradition with charges of guilt emerge in a local Guyana court or US court or validated evidentiary data of the Mohammed ties to Maduro, all of the risks remain speculative at best, misleading at worst. Hence, they are all without merit. So, until official and final sanctions of a U.S. extradition with charges of guilt emerge in a local Guyana court or U.S. court or validated evidentiary data of the Mohammed's ties to Maduro surfaces, everything what people talking about the Mohammeds is just speculative, misleading, and without merit. It becomes merit when it is proven by a court, the evidence is presented, and they are found guilty. Everything else is speculative and what you call circumstantial evidence. In any court, any lawyer, any learned qualified lawyer will tell you there's something called circumstantial evidence. At the beginning of this live, I said, I went into explaining that Guyana is a cooperation, America is a cooperation, and they have corporate policies. So if they're cooperations, then what do you think the citizens are? So Mr. Mohamed can investigate certain aspects of legislation that he can use to literally lift himself out of this dilemma. Completely out of this dilemma, right? In the last video that I made it very clear. I said that I hinted to this thing. I said Mohammed's need to get a US lobby firm with a very strong Republican head in the lobby firm, and they can get off of these charges. I'm saying it again in this video. Guys, I hope you all tag the Mohammeds. I hope you all tag Odessa, you tag Dujan, you tag Darren Wade, tag Dexter Todd, tag Vera, tag all the lawyers that represents Mohammed. Listen to me, I'll say this again. I'm not a Lawrence certified lawyer, but I do a lot of investigative research, and I'm telling you this. The Mohammeds can be acquitted of all of these charges if they solicit the services of a very reputable, very strong Republican lobby firm established in the United States of America, because most of these charges are not criminal. None of these charges are criminal charges. Y'all hear me? And even if the US want to charge them under criminal legislation, the US has to prove, the onus on the US is to prove by Black's Law Dictionary definition of the word crime, they have to prove that the Mohammeds committed a crime. And by my understanding of the law, by my reading of the definition of the word crime in Black's Law Dictionary, if the US is going to charge the Mohammeds under criminal law, then it clearly says that the Mohammeds, if they get the right people, the right lawyers, to do the right research and the right representation, they cannot be charged for a crime. Because they did not. The Mohammeds have not. I say this, the Mohammeds have not. Nazar and Azudi Mohammed have not committed a crime. And I'm basing my definition of the word crime from Black's Law Dictionary. So again, I say to you, the Mohammeds are not criminals. Stop calling them criminals. Stop referring to them as criminals. Stop labeling them as criminals. The APNU, AFC, PNC, PP agents. Stop it. And to the general public, use your common sense. Use your common sense. So I say to you again, be very careful with these PNCR, APNU, and AFC, US, Canadian, overseas-based social media presenters, and the PPPC, politically driven ones in Guyana. They are self-serving hypocrites. Don't listen to them. They are exceptionally skilled in creating very evil and vile commentaries to persuade the common man into mental confusion and confuffled decision making. As I said in the beginning, Guyana stands at the crossroads between transparency and tabloidism. The public deserves the facts, not political theater. Responsible journalism must be done behind the camera and on paper. It must always separate accusation from verification. In this video, I came here and I did the verification of all the accusations against the Mohammeds. That's the end of my presentation, but at the end of this presentation here, I will give you a piece of my history to explain to you how I beat my own criminal case in Guyana. So I'll give you that, and then I'll let you go. But before I give you that, I'm going to say to all of you, please, if you're still here, please share this live. If you're still here, please share the live. If you come and you see it, please share it. So I will teach you now. For those of you who want to learn about law and how to fight legal aspects in Guyana, I'm going to teach you this now from my own personal experience in the courts in Guyana. I was charged for noise nuisance in Guyana. I made a first, it was during COVID time, I made a first online appearance at the Brickdam station. When the magistrate was asking me certain questions, and I just stood there and I refused to answer the question because, first of all, listen people, the name on your birth certificate is not you. So when they're referring to me, as the name on the birth certificate, I couldn't respond because that is not even me. Right? Do your research. Now, I went and I wrote an affidavit, and I prepared my own affidavit. I did my own affidavit, and I took it to the Mirage building to Mr. What's his name again? I forget his name. Mr. Kumar. I took it to Mr. Kumar when you go in from Charlotte Street, Mirage building, on your left, right. I took it to Mr. Kumar, and I had it notarized. I then prepared my own delivery book, and I went to the magistrate court right there on High Street, and I delivered it to the clerk, to the registry there at the court. I had them signed my delivery book that they received it, and I told them that it's for I think it was code 5 or something with Leroy Dali. The magistrate is Leroy Dali. The document, my affidavit, was submitted, and when the matter was called up, my case was dismissed. Let me say that again. I did not appear in court. I did not make any presentation in court. I did not do anything. I just submitted an affidavit, and my case was dismissed. So the thing is this. What did I write in that affidavit? In Guyana, noise nuisance is a crime. Noise nuisance in Guyana, under Guyana's law, noise nuisance is a crime. I just explained to you, according to Black's Law Dictionary, a crime has to be committed, or you can only be found guilty of committing a crime if you execute harm or hurt against another person or established living entity or thing. You can only commit a crime against a dog, a cow, a goat, a man, a woman, if you execute harm or hurt to that person or thing. So if the court is going to charge you for noise nuisance, the prosecutor, your accuser, and EPA have to prove with physical evidence that your accuser suffered harm, physical harm or hurt. Therefore, they have to present some form of medical document that validates that they suffered harm or hurt to prove that a crime was committed. That's one. Two, in Guyana, you are free to make how much noise you want. You are a living, breathing, functioning entity. You have a right to make noise. It's your constitutional right to make a sound. You also have a constitutional right to amplify your song by whatever means you choose necessary, by a drum, a flute, a trombone. However you choose to amplify your sound, it is your legal right. However, under the EPA Act, under the Environmental Protection Act, that sound can only go up to a certain decibel limit. If you pass that limit, they have to prove by way of a decibel meter reading that you passed that limit. Y'all understand why my case was dismissed? Y'all understand why my case was dismissed? Because EPA never visited me house with a calibrated decibel meter to measure the sound coming from my house. So in my affidavit, I asked them to produce evidence of a crime according to Black Star Dictionary. In my affidavit, I asked them to produce the decibel meter reading by EPA and the calibration data to verify that the equipment was functioning effectively. The reading on the decibel meter must show that the sound emitted from my building was above the legal allowable decibel limit. Have a good night. Thank you for visiting this live. Thank you for staying to the end if you're still here. And I very much hope that all the information I presented here to you, that you've benefited from it. I only ask that you share this, click like, sorry. I only ask that you click like and share this video. That's the only request. Click like, tag somebody you think who deserves to hear what I just said, and please share this video. Thank you all very much for coming, and I look forward to seeing you in my next live. Have a good night. Have a good night. Thank you for coming. Thank you for being here with me. Have a good night.